Today, we are undertaking a deep dive into one of the most compelling and just confounding literary mysteries of the 20th century. We are talking about a text that really forces you to confront your fundamental understanding of reality, of memory, and what happens the moment after life ends.
We're talking about the alleged final manuscript of the Polish Jewish writer and artist Bruno Schulz.
Exactly.
And it's a document that exists in this sort of liminal space between history and myth. I mean, Schulz was murdered by the SS in the Drobis ghetto in November 1942.
Right, as part of the mass annihilation of Polish Jewry.
And by all historical accounts, that's it. That's where his story ends. Most of his final works, including his great lost novel, The Messiah, they were just gone.
But the whole narrative twists on this single object.
Yeah.
The Book of Idolatry.
Yeah.
This manuscript was discovered in March 1947, so years after his death. And it wasn't just found lying around, it was deliberately sealed inside a wall cavity on Floriesca Street.
A work crew found it, wrapped meticulously in oilcloth.
And the physical evidence is what makes this whole thing so intense.
It really is. It's written on this bizarre mix of papers. Some of it is fine, sure, but a lot of it is just the back of German administrative forms, bureaucratic detritus.
Which perfectly dates the writing itself to the 1941-1942 ghetto period.
Right. The handwriting, the paper, the ink. You've had 3 independent experts verify it. It's authentic Schulz, written exactly when and where he was living under SS occupation.
But here is the profound paradox. The content.
Yeah.
It details events after November 1942.
Specifically describing his experience of death and what the text calls the interval.
The interval.
As Schulz defines it, it's a realm that exists, and this is a quote, between the seconds of material time. It's a non-physical space where consciousness persists after the body is gone.
So it's the ultimate narrative of survival, written by a man who was, for all intents and purposes, already dead.
Yeah, it leaves scholars in this impossible position, right?
It really does. You're forced into one of 3 camps. 1, it's an incredibly elaborate, brilliant forgery.
Or 2, it's the result of a profound psychological break. You know, a final, beautiful, internal mythology he built as his world was violently collapsing.
Or 3, it is exactly what it claims to be.
Yeah.
It's literal testimony.
And our mission today isn't really to play detective and pick a side.
No.
We want to pull back the layers of this radical cosmology, regardless of which theory you subscribe to. We want to distill Schulz's final vision of consciousness because it offers such an extraordinary perspective on art, memory, and, well, the spirit.
Okay, let's unpack this journey. It begins in what Schulz himself called the season of disintegration.
The setting is the Drohobych ghetto, 1941-42, but he describes the material world itself starting to decay, to become permeable.
And how does he show that? How does he illustrate the world bending to his mythology?
Well, he describes the ordinary streets of Drohobych streets he walked every day, literally propagating or shifting at night. Yeah. New alleys and lanes would just appear, not as new construction, but as if they had always been there, just veiled from material eyes. He wrote that the city was expanding into its own reflection.
So the physical geography of the ghetto, which was shrinking because of the occupation, was simultaneously expanding into this mythological geography that only he could see.
Exactly, and this culminates in the most crucial early encounter. Schulz finds his father's old textile shop on Streiska Street. It had been shuttered for years.
Right. His father, Jacob, died way back in 1915.
And he died diminished and frail. But this shop is suddenly open, it's whole, it's fully stocked.
And the figure inside is not that frail man.
No. This is the magnificent mythological version of the father, the one Schulz created in his stories. He's there, presiding over his fantastical rolls of cloth, doing his strange experiments.
And this is a perfect example of that scholarly tension, isn't it? If it's a forgery, using the mythological father is a genius move.
A great way to mimic his earlier work.
If it's a psychological break, this is the ultimate wish fulfillment delusion. But what does the text itself claim is happening?
The text claims it's a breakthrough.
Yeah.
The father confirms this new reality. He even tells Schulz he's now advised by the condor, the bird form Schulz had written him into.
Wow.
And this is the core revelation for Schulz. He realizes he'd never been inventing his stories. He'd been, and this is his phrase, remembering forward.
Remembering forward.
He was mapping an adjacent dimension, the interval, and his own vivid descriptions were allowing it to break through the material membrane.
So his art wasn't fiction. It was a kind of high-level cartography that pulled the future into the present. And what's the immediate consequence of that?
The father gives him the schedule.
The schedule.
He reveals the precise date and time of Schulz's murder, November 19th at 2:15 p.m. on the corner of Jockey and Mickeyville Streets by the SS officer Günther.
That is genuinely chilling, to know the exact coordinates of your own death.
It is, but the father frames it with this profound detachment. It's not a warning, not a tragedy to be avoided. He calls it a schedule for Schulz's transformation.
His death certificate and his birth announcement.
Not simultaneously. Into the durable reality of the interval.
So, armed with this definitive date, he starts preparing. He calls this final secret work the Atlas of Elsewhere. What kind of places does he map in this atlas?
The most fascinating is the market of dubious goods. It occupies the same physical space as the ghetto market, but it exists on a different mythological frequency.
Okay.
The vendors here, they don't sell bread or vegetables. They sell abstractions that have been given temporary material form.
Abstractions like what? Can you buy an idea?
Precisely. Schulz details vendors selling these small weighted items labeled Nostalgia Grade A, or a tiny shimmering vial containing the hour before dawn in childhood.
You're kidding.
No, you could buy regret or even a handful of time itself condensed into a solid. The idea is that when the material world dissolves, the underlying concepts, the raw materials, become accessible.
Wow. That completely reframes the relationship between matter and idea. And it's in this market that he meets another key figure from his work, Adela.
Yes, Adela, the maid from his stories. The one who alternately dominated and domesticated him. But here, she's manifest as the anima, the goddess, the spiritual ruler of his inner world. Majestic, but also terrifyingly familiar.
And she gives him a critical piece of insight about his own art, doesn't she? Specifically about those private drawings he made.
The ones he hid out of shame, his more submissive work.
Right.
She reveals that those drawings were actually his truest form of devotional practice. She calls them the fundamental posture of the mystic before the divine.
Because he was so submissive in his art?
He was in the correct state of reverence to actually witness and chart this divine reality.
So she's there to guide him. We used the term earlier. She becomes his psychopomp.
That's right, a guide for souls crossing over. Adela is telling him that his secret, lifelong artistic devotion prepared him specifically for this moment. She hands him his atlas back, and it's glowing now, telling him his work was always meant to be the master cartography for the interval.
And this guidance leads him to one of the most powerful and, frankly, heartbreaking symbols in the whole manuscript, the Library of Ash.
The library occupies the ruins of the great synagogue in Drohobius, which was burned down. It's an impossible structure. Every book ever destroyed, particularly those burned in the Holocaust, exists here.
In perfect, complete form.
Yet they are perpetually burning.
Burning, but not destroyed.
The flames, paradoxically, don't consume, they clarify. The fire strips away the physical binding, the paper, the ink, revealing only the pure essence of the text. It's the ultimate statement on the persistence of Jewish consciousness against industrial erasure.
And he meets someone pretty famous there.
He does. In the library's reading room, Schulz encounters Franz Kafka.
Of course.
And Kafka explains that they, the dead artists, are the maintainers of this mythological reality. Their work is complete, perfected in the interval, and their finished works. They leak. That's the word he uses.
They leak into the material world.
Through dreams, inspiration, those unbidden ideas that just strike living artists.
So the ideas that artists struggle with today might just be finished chapters waiting for them to tune in. That throws the whole forgery argument into a fascinating light.
Exactly. If this whole manuscript is a lie, it's a lie that perfectly aligns with the deepest mythology of artistic creation. It turns forgery into a kind of prophecy.
But his preparation isn't done. He has to visit the Avenue of Statues.
Right, and the statues aren't silent stone. They're actively remembering. They hold the history of Drobus, and Schulz absorbs those memories, integrating the city's past into himself.
And the most crucial statue is one of himself.
Yes, a statue frozen at the exact moment of his own death.
A statue of the future.
It's remembering forward. It depicts the bullet's impact at 2:15 p.m. And Schulz studies this moment, transforming the violence into a symbolic mechanism. He writes that the bullet enters his skull not as an act of hate, but like a key entering a lock.
The mechanism of his release.
The key that opens the door to the interval.
That is an immense psychological feat, to re-engineer the moment of your own murder into a necessary key. What other steps does he take?
He enters the garden of reversed growth. It's a place where plants defy gravity. The foliage grows down and the roots reach up toward heaven, grounding themselves in light, not soil.
And here he harvests memory fruits.
Yes, he consumes them to integrate his entire past. It's a necessary step to gather all the fragments of his life before the body dissolves.
And this garden is also a gathering place for the Jewish dead.
It is. Here he meets the old man me, the version of himself who might have survived the war.
A man he could have been.
And this version of him explains the garden's true purpose. This is where the millions of Jewish dead tend the tree of the Jewish people, or, as the text calls it, the tree of unlived lives.
Unlived lives?
Yes. Millions of murdered potentials, the engineers, doctors, artists who died before their potential could be realized, they are maintained here in mythological form. They aren't forgotten potential. They are active, dynamic potential cultivated in this garden.
That transforms individual tragedy into a collective, enduring mythological infrastructure, so he won't be entering a void.
Not at all. He'll be entering a functioning world. The Drehobus Eternal, the city beneath the city.
A city that includes the Eternal Gymnasium.
Where Schulz will continue to teach his students, like Ephraim, who is deported at 19. The infrastructure is ready. He knows he'll be welcomed by the midwife of death.
The same figure who delivered him into the material world in 1892.
Who will now deliver his soul into the interval.
Knowing his exact timetable, the final 2 days in the material world must have been agonizing. What happens on November 17th?
We get this incredible, chilling scene. It involves Gunther, the SS officer who's scheduled to kill him.
The murderer.
He visits Schulz, supposedly about the murals Schulz was forced to paint. But Schulz had used an essence from the interval in the paint, encoding prophecy and mythology into the walls.
And Gunther sees it.
He sees something. He's profoundly unsettled by the mural's power. And he gives Schulz advance notice of the execution date, 2 days before it happens.
A final, guilty act of mercy.
Which gives Schulz the time he needs to complete his work.
That reluctant acknowledgement of his art's power becomes the final grace note he needs. And what's in the testament, he hides in the wall.
He seals 2 things. First, fragments of his lost novel, The Messiah. In this context, it teaches that the Messiah isn't a savior from suffering, but a transformer who dies consciously to show that death itself is just transformation.
And the second thing,
The instructions for conscious dying.
a manual for staying awake during your own dissolution.
A step-by-step guide for remaining the awareness that witnesses the body's demise, rather than identifying with its pain or fear. The fortitude required to write that, knowing the scheduled time, is almost incomprehensible.
Then comes the morning of November 19th, the final walk.
Schulz's final material act is simplicity itself. He walks 347 steps from his home to the corner. He's carrying 2 things.
A piece of bread.
The ordinary errand anchoring him to the material world, and a single white rose, a gift from a flower seller, which symbolizes the threshold ritual. He isn't escaping, he's walking toward the door, prepared.
And here's where the manual gets applied. The moment of the crossing, 2:15 p.m.
The pain, the text says, is immense. It's the body's final, desperate argument for its own importance.
But he's disciplined. He is not the pain.
He is the awareness witnessing the pain. Consciousness separates from the falling body like smoke separating from fire, and it immediately expands into its true form.
And from this new perspective, what does he see?
He sees both realities at once. He sees the material world below, Gunther kneeling and weeping over the body, a sign that the murderer himself has been forced to internalize this unwelcome teaching from Schulz's art.
And beneath that,
he sees the mythological reality, the eternal city gathering to welcome him.
he achieves his apotheosis. He transforms.
He becomes part of the monument of names, joining the millions of murdered potentials, completing his ultimate artistic act. But the work doesn't stop.
No.
The text concludes with Schulz immediately beginning his new role in the interval. He becomes a muse, whispering inspiration, teaching his students, and mapping the territory for the next souls who will cross.
And the discovery of the manuscript in 1947, that becomes the final material proof, the artifact that allows the spiritual map to reach the living world.
Yes. The manuscript itself, found sealed in that wall, is the ultimate contradiction that validates the entire cosmology. It's the physical proof that consciousness is more durable than historical violence or flesh.
So what does this all mean for us, for you listening? The core idea, I think, is that art, story, mythology, they aren't just escapes from reality.
They are durable forms of reality that defy historical annihilation. You can murder the author, you can burn the book, but you cannot destroy the essence that's encoded in the vision.
And this raises the most profound question. about the scale of creative persistence. If you believe the manuscript, the unlived lives of the Jewish dead are actively cultivated in that garden.
Which means that Schulz's most profound ongoing influence might not come from the books we have,
The small, fragmented collection we celebrate.
but from the books he didn't get to write.
Those completed, perfected works exist now, in the interval, just waiting to leak into the imagination of artists yet to be born. It leaves you with a question, right?
Right.
What responsibility do we have to the might-have-beens of history?
If the seeds of those millions of unlived potentials are truly waiting in that mythological garden for the right mind to cultivate them, then you have to ask, is genius just a matter of opening ourselves up to those whispers from the interval?
That's something to consider the next time an idea arrives out of nowhere, seemingly unbidden. Perhaps it wasn't your own creativity at all, but a memory fruit harvested by a maintainer, just waiting for you to pick it up.